Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the match reaction for the last game of the season and a pretty heavy defeat for Leeds United side that very much looked like they were on the beach come the second half. Disappointing way to end the season. You never want to see your side lose in that kind of manner. A couple of the decisions in the second half probably led to two of those goals, but West Ham had far more to play for in that game than Leeds did. Our season was wrapped up. We are missing one of our more creative players. We don't tend to score a huge amount of goals from open play when Noah Okafor isn't in the side, and that kind of opens it up to a lot of discussion around what Leeds will need to do in the summer. They need more creative attack-minded players. Top Note when he came on, had a few little moments, two decent corners he took as well, but outside that, a pretty disappointing second half by Leeds United in the game that mattered far more to West Ham than it did to Leeds, as most people are saying, disappointed in the performance to wrap up what has been a really good run of results for Leeds United over the last couple of months, but a really poor second half performance from Leeds. They didn't offer much in the second half. First half, I thought it was a bit different. First half, I genuinely thought if Leeds want to get into fourth gear even here, I don't think they started in fourth, started in second or third, but if they could get into fourth gear, maybe they could score if they wanted to. But by the time the second half came around, I think Leeds United very much at the foot off the gas. And then the change to two at the back from the three just left us wide open to be picked off on the counter-attack. And that goes to point out why that two-man at the back doesn't work. Daniel Farke shifted to the 4-3-3 when he wanted to get a goal. And you can see, once Pascal Struijk was isolated, one half decent ball through, he makes a side tackle, misses it, they score. And then the third goal is a similar one as well. And Callum Wilson, to be fair, before he does score, probably could score as well from another counter-attack with a ball played through to him. So again, yeah, poor. Don't want to see it. Just don't want to see it back two for Leeds United. Don't want to see it. And I'm really disappointed with how they've managed to wrap up the season. Doesn't take away. I'm not going to make excuses for Leeds in this game, but I will say is doesn't take away from what has been a very solid season for Leeds United this year. The last couple of months have been great, but it does go to show when there are stakes at play, Leeds are very good. When there was nothing at play, Leeds dialed it in, and they very much dialed it in today. It's a disappointing end to a season. Ultimately, doesn't matter for West Ham. They will be relegated on 39 points. Along with Burnley and Wolverhampton Wanderers. We know who's coming up now. It's Coventry, Ipswich, and Hull City, which is not a bad group of teams coming up for Leeds United. European spots, Sunderland have managed to find themselves in the European spots. Now, some people will be disappointed that we didn't get there, and they did. I will point out to you, if you qualified to get into the European competitions, under the new squad cost ratio model that comes in the summer, you cannot spend 85% of your revenue. You can only spend 70%, and you probably make between 4 to 13 million pounds on being in that particular European competition. So not a massive one in that situation. So I don't know if I would want to be in Europe this season, especially with the SCR coming in. Some of them might be stretched a bit tight this in the summer. Some might Bournemouth, some might Brentford. So it's an interesting one. Sorry, Brighton and Bournemouth. It's an interesting one from that perspective. But from a Leeds perspective today, first half, fine, I suppose. We were okay. Again, I felt we could have probably scored. Probably should have scored. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has got a very easy chance. Lucas Mecha could shoot himself on his left foot, but decides to give DCL what does look like a relatively easy chance. He needs to find a corner, hits it straight at the keeper who is coming out on top of him. Ultimately doesn't score. And then the second half, don't defend the first goal well at all. At all. That corner kick that comes in. You got Ethan Ampadu and Joe Rodon both underneath the ball. Neither of the two of them get off the ground. Castellanos is a pretty easy header. Then you have the ball played through for Jared Bowen. Pascal Struijk makes the dive. Leeds are stretched at that point anyway. Finds the corner of the net. You would imagine Bowen would from that angle. Then Callum Wilson gets in a very similar chance and takes way too long with it. Walks towards the Leeds United goal with the ball. Has a shot, and it's a really good save in the end by Carl Darlow. And then from the corner, gets played short, goes out to Somerville. He squares the ball to Callum Wilson on the edge of the box, and he smashes the ball through body players into the back of the net for 3-0 to West Ham. So from a Leeds perspective, Daniel Farke will be annoyed with that, and he should be. You don't want to lose a season like that. I mean, Leeds' goal difference was -4. It's now -7. It just takes the shine off things a little bit. Nothing more than that. I mean, we still finished ahead of Crystal Palace, Forest, and Spurs. I mean, start of the season, if someone said that to you, you would imagine you've had a very strong season. So, but yeah, performance-wise, really poor. I think you've got some players that possibly minding themselves a little bit for the World Cup, and you've got other players who could be just finishing up and heading out the door for Leeds. I don't know if we see any more of Willie Gnonto in a Leeds United shirt. I don't know about Joe Peary either. Question mark still about Pascal Struijk. First half, I had more positives than negatives, funnily enough. First half, I thought the positives were we were calm. Defensive block was decent. thought Stroke and Ampadu had a very good first half along with Jaden Bogle. I wrote down the Leeds. I feel like Leeds could score at any point if they decide to go for this because West Ham looked really, really shaky. The negatives, DCL should have scored. And that was pretty much it. It was a pretty non-eventful first half. West Ham had 2 chances between the 42nd and 45th minute. Leeds had chances before that. One very early on from Mecha, then the DCL chance, which was a huge chance to score for Leeds. Yeah, I mean, Conche saying it doesn't really matter. I'm doing a review though, Con, so I have to kind of do the review. It doesn't really matter. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. Leeds are 14th. Second half, yeah, more negatives than positives. Passing was all over the place. It was just all over the place. We were leaving them short. We were overhitting them. The shape was all over the place as well. As soon as we went to 2 at the back, just porous defending. And yeah, just a bit of a mess. And it was first 10 minutes, Leeds were in that second half. And then it was just all West Ham. Although even saying that, Leeds did have, but not they had a one shot that he cut inside with, had a shot. Barner has a header that's cleared off the line in the 90th minute. But that was it. Really, that was it. Outside of that, poor game for Leeds on what has been a good season for Leeds. And I suppose that's where we'll turn our attention to now. We've got an interesting summer coming up. And a couple of things that I suppose are worth talking about is where do Leeds go from here now heading into the summer? What is next? And what do we need to look at? And one thing that has come out of that game today, and probably a bit of the Brighton game as well, despite the fact that we did manage to win that one, was the squad's probably a bit light. And a bit light in quality outside of just bodies as well. We had a couple of midfielders injured today. There wasn't really options to bring anybody on. And when we did bring on players for midfielders, they were natural midfielders. So again, the shape went out the window. So there's a lot of work to do in the summer still for Leeds United. Wilf is talking about Sunderland playing in Europe. I will point out again, Sunderland will lose money by getting into Europe. They can spend 85% of their revenue under SCR next season. They can only spend 70%. That 15% is far more than the money they'll make going into the Europa League next season. So unless they're going to win the Europa League next season, they could be stretched and they'll need to expand that squad a fair bit in the summer. So that could be a poison chalice for Sunderland. It might not be. It might not be. But for me, walk before you can run. I think they might be in a full sprint right now, and we'll see how that benefits them in the summer and start next season. So constantly Sunderland could be in a hunt for relegation now. And I think that could be a shout. All right. It's an interesting one. Brighton and Bournemouth could be in that same bracket as well. Brighton will have a summer change in no Areola next season. So, yeah, next season's next season. Where these teams have finished above us ultimately doesn't really matter for Leeds. But we do have to look at ourselves in the summer. We need backup. We need more creative options. We can't have a situation when Noah Okafor is not playing. The Leeds don't create any chances or goal scoring opportunities. He has scored the bulk of our goals with Dominic Calvert-Lewin towards the back end of the season. Without him, DCL doesn't score. Or last week when the opposition passes the ball straight to him. But outside of that, Leeds have struggled to score goals. You look at that spell when Okafor was out injured, Leeds didn't really score from open play. So that has to be looked at. There's more depth needed. That formation, by the way, I just don't want to see Leeds playing 4-3-3. We don't have the defenders to play it. We get cut open way too often. So yeah. That's pretty much it. They got work to do in the summer. Can't sit in our hands. Danny Farkas said it. Got to match the ambition that he has. We've also got to do better than we did the last time we were up. But it is an important one. So yeah, major talking points today. Performance, nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough for Leeds. But again, it's the last game of the season. Didn't really matter. Depth of the squad needs to be looked at going into the summer. So that if we do, look, we got away with a lot of injuries this season. Our injuries came at the end of the season when we were already safe. If they come earlier in the season, it could be a very different conversation that we're having right now. It didn't. Great. But we got to make sure that we look after that next season. Don't leave ourselves too tight. We will see what it looks like for a couple of other players going into what will be probably the last summer for a couple of players. And we'll see where we go. But no more 4-3-3, please. Please stop playing it. Didn't work in the first half of the season. Has worked a handful of times when we've chased games this year. But in that, not good enough at all. Just no. I think if we stay with the 3 at the back, we maybe lose 1-0. We might nick something from a corner. But we're going to the 4 at the back. I think it left us wide open. Absolutely wide open. But yeah, look, not a great day at the office. We'll jump into some of your comments, but we won't. Go easy in the comments. No point in falling out with each other over a game of football that ultimately doesn't really matter towards the end of the season. Got a few people there. Paul Brody saying a sad way to say goodbye to a few of the squad members. Yeah, that's the disappointing fact because I would have liked to see Sam Byram get on the park. Could be Willie Nanto's last game for the club. Could be Joe Perez. Could be Pascal Strauss. Could be a few there. So yeah, unfortunately, poor one to let go. Simon says Leeds players were thinking about the beach. One of the worst games Leeds have played all season. Yeah, you'd have to agree with that. SST said a not so gentle reminder that we need to churn up the quality. Yeah, it might not be a bad time to remind the board. You got work to do. Tubbs says, I'm fuming with that performance. Wilf says the performance was pitiful. Don't care about the situation. At least play with some intent. Front three were abysmal and Aaronson should be nowhere near the Premier League. SST said, what performance? There wasn't one. DCL clearly rocked by the England snub. There was an alternative. There was an alternate reaction. Dom. Cyberflash self says Paul Brody. The bench or beach before side. Sorry, Paul. Darren says that was terrible. Ruined my season. That doesn't ruin the season. At the end of the season, even Darren, you'll get over that one pretty quickly. We'll move on to the summer. Peter says, well, that was very poor. If Leeds rolled over for West Ham, then I'm not impressed. Didn't roll over for anybody. I don't think Leeds cared. Ultimately, West Ham have gone down. Didn't really matter in the end. What's the don't make excuses? No excuses for that. You can't make excuses for that. You got beaten 3-0 to a side that got relegated. Black and white, isn't it? Grab music chat. Afternoon, pal. Hope you're well. Yeah, a little annoyed that. Yeah, I'm annoyed by it, but it won't cause me to lose sleep tonight because ultimately, at the end of the day, just the stakes were 0 going into that one. Referred to type. Glad to see that I didn't travel for that shit show. By the way, Leeds fans that were there, excellent, absolutely excellent. Spurs winning against Everton. What even happened? I know, Sarah. Yeah, ruined it for me. Danny says Daniel Farke, unwatchable football at its most bleeding obvious. I'm not going to say that, but look, the whole season in its entirety, not individual ones. There's work to be done. There are things that need to be cleaned up. Again, reverting to type. Let's stay away from type. Type hasn't worked. And that almost spoiled the sunny day. You get outside to forget about that pretty quickly. Rad Music said there was too many chances that we didn't put away in that first half. 39 points and relegated when 26 was safe last season. That's true. Yeah, West Ham are down. Paul Brennan says, please that this season sorted out before today's first. I think if Leeds were in a race to stay up in this game, Paul, it's a different looking Leeds performance. But yeah, should have been had 4 first half. Wasn't expecting that, says Danny Rumsey. Peter said, Sarah, a great season and please sell Aaronson. G Yorkshire 257. Good to see all these cam heads in the chat. A welcome return to Farke as a clown, lads. The end of the season. We were knackered and had nothing to play for. Don't let the bet. Yeah, I genuinely wouldn't read too much into this. Missing a lot of players as well. Quality was. I mean, Brendan Knott is coming off the bench. Hasn't been in the squad for ages. Says a lot. Brian Swanson. Absolute joke. Need to clear out Aaronson for sure. A few others need a new striker. I will say this about Aaronson. I mean, I'm gonna be really honest about this. I'll probably upset a few people, but I'm just gonna say it. People get a lot more wound up when Brendan Aaronson doesn't perform than they do about any other Leeds player when they don't perform. And some players, I mean, Elton has not been brilliant in the last 3 weeks. His defensive work is very good, but his passing's been really poor in the last 2 games. Not a word. I'm not saying that they're comparable. I'm just saying the reaction is always far more over the top with Aaronson than it is with any other player. And I know why. We all know why. But for me, yeah, probably wasn't great today. But he's had decent weeks. Could have scored in the first half. Probably should have scored in the first half. We got a few of the more recent comments. Agree with you on Jer and Aaronson. He wasn't good today. I'm not going to say he was good. He wasn't good, but there was lots that weren't good. I don't see anyone else's name being mentioned in the chat. I only see one name being mentioned because it's the easy pick out. It usually is. There we go. Match report today. Yeah, he was. I ain't bothered really, says Pete. I ain't bothered really. We could have been 3 up in the first half. We could have been. We probably should have been. Yeah. My God, we ended up with 47 points in our first season and stayed up with a lot of supporters still slagging Farke. Get a grip, will you? I genuinely just think everyone's getting a bit wound up. I would go outside and enjoy the sunshine and have a point. I wouldn't be reading too much in this, and I definitely wouldn't let it be getting you annoyed because as much as we did lose 3-0 away, and I'm annoyed that we lost, I'm not going to lose any sleep over, and ultimately, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it's nice to be in a situation where we can have a defeat like that and performance like that and go, well, that didn't matter, but don't do it again when it does matter. And we didn't, and we haven't done it when it has mattered, and that's important. We can't recruit any more mediocre players. That's important. Yeah, well, I mean, it's bang on. The summer's really important. We've got to bring in quality. We've got to bring in good players. We've got to increase the floor of this squad, and we've got to add in 2 or 3 difference makers. I mean, you've got to bring in backup for players like Okafor, and if you do bring another creative player, they need backup as well. You can't just have one, and when they're out injured, all of a sudden you stop scoring goals. So, yeah, it's a huge summer from that perspective. That was poor. Really good season overall. That's exactly it. that is the reaction to that game nailed off in one comment. That was poor, but a really good season overall. That's it. Point. Done. Only one bad game in 15. I would agree with that as well. Con says, Attenborough should have been calling that game. It would have been so dramatic him describing seeing Buenanotte. I've rarely seen Buenanotte. Yeah. Stephen says Metro was not worth the money. Well, it didn't cost us anything, Stephen. So there you go. Sven says DCL should have scored 2 or more and proved why England. That I thought the same. I thought he should have gone for it today. Bit off it all right. A really bad second half from Leeds. Too many mistakes. And Aaronson, HMG, why he keeps playing him. Well, Aaronson, Tanaka, James, Nanto to go for me. I think there could be a few of them there as well. Salah crying at the end of the Liverpool game. Oh, well, new players in, says Arthur. That's what we moved to now. Utter garbage, but we've had an incredible season. Huge changes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Yep. Paul, looking forward to the summer new signings, see what Leeds do. A win today would have meant 12, 14, 12 wins, draws, losses this season. Not winning, but not losing, opportunity missed. Yeah, we finished up with 2 more losses than wins. I think I said at the start of the season we'll lose far more games than we win. I thought we'd have more draws, but ultimately I'm okay with that. I'm not saying this will be the level in the future, but we are just an injury crisis away from this. Rajiv, that's exactly the right point. And that's where you look at it. Leeds injuries have all come at the end of the season. Maybe players are carrying some knocks. Maybe made decisions on Sean Longstaff to have a hernia operation a bit earlier rather than wait until the season was over. Maybe he could have played. Maybe he's had that hernia issue for a few weeks. And maybe they made a decision today to just, get it this week to get it out of the way. Lead themselves a bit thin going into this match. But if these injuries had to come in at the end of January, start of February, it's a very different conversation that we're possibly having here as well. So it does need to be looked at. Pete says, they've worked their socks off since the City game. Well done, lads. We ain't good in London anyway. Not the best today. But hey, we ain't down. Well done, boys. Yeah, well done. It's been a good season. Look, bad loss, but overall, I've really enjoyed the season. And I would agree with you, James, on that. I think I've enjoyed the season, specifically the second half. The way we've mixed our football up, the way we approach games has been very good. The system change has worked. We shouldn't be looking backwards on our systems. We should definitely not be looking at Pascal Struijk and Joe Rodon playing in a 2 in the Premier League. I love Joe Rodon. Pascal Struijk's very good in the 3. He's not very good in the 2. He wasn't at the start of the season. And he still isn't now. So, yeah, poor result, strengthened. That's the rational response to this. That's exactly what it needs to be. Don't read too much into this. Keep players out. Nothing much to play for. And that's what it is. You should never be happy with a poor performance. And I'm not happy. But there's a difference between not being happy and being fuming. First half of the season, you'd be fuming with that. But outside of that, all 3 teams promoted are going to follow Leeds and Sunderland template next season. The question will be whether they can or not. Because remember, Leeds still did have the revenue to do that. Coventry have a lot of players on loan. They have to make decisions, including their goalkeeper, whether they buy them or not. And if they buy them, they're buying championship level. They're not upgrading the squad. Whole of a lot of work to do in that squad as well. It's not an overly young squad either. They've got a couple of decent players in there. Ipswich, they'll be fine. I still think they'll stay in the Premier League next season, but they'll have a little bit more money to spend. Dara, good afternoon to you, mate. Hope you're well. Spurs they let you down spectacularly, pal. They let you down spectacularly. We'll talk about that on another day, but I hope you're well, Dara. Great to see you, mate. I don't know if we'll sign creative players, but surely I think that's the glaring gap in the lead squad is the lack of creative players. And that's the very obvious one. I think Farkas talked about difference makers and about more quality in attacking areas. I think defensively overall, the squad's decent. Ignoring today. So the attacking side of it needs to be looked at for me. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Fragging my throat. So yeah, that has to be the area they look at for me. I wouldn't say no to another quality central midfielder either. Anyone going to the USA to watch the Leeds friendlies? Unfortunately not. Bob Brody said the loss would have been easier to swallow if Everton could have. Yeah. If Everton had if Everton had beaten Spurs, probably wouldn't have bothered me too much at all. Leo Dragon said the result strengthens Farkas' hand to. Well, that does that. It does do that. Leo, it does strengthen his hand to demand better quality. So maybe not a bad thing. There's always a time and place to lose matches. There's always certain moments. Back end of a January transfer window, there's always a good time to lose a match as well, especially if you're looking for more players. So yeah, Leeds did their bit today for West Ham. Fantastic season. 14th is a quality performance to build on. Thank you for the content this season. Yeah, that's the Kershaw. Appreciate you, mate. Hope you're doing well, pal. I'm not sure if you got down to the game. What I will say, I'll get to that in 1 second, actually. Mick Doyle says, hi, Jer. How much should our transfer budget be? So right now, everything's rumored. Ultimately, we don't know, but the rumored is around about the same as last year, 100, 105 million pounds. That's as a starting budget. I would expect Leeds to sell players this summer. I would expect Leeds to move certain bodies on. So you could increase that a little bit. I think the core of the squad is good enough for the Premier League, especially what's coming up next season. I think we've got a better squad than the 3 sides that are coming up next year, depending on what they do. But you do need to upgrade certain positions. We've got less players that aren't playing. Joe Pirro's not playing. I appreciate everything Joe Pirro's done for Leeds United, and I love him in the Championship, but he's not playing. So Leeds need players that are going to play. When Anthony's going to go back, so you need another 10. Aaronson needs to probably be upgraded. No harm in having him as a squad player. I think Brendan Aaronson can add an awful lot coming off the bench for sides against sides when they're tired. The energy he brings, so I wouldn't be getting rid of him. Castellanos in says, Drew, what do you think? I like Taddy Castellanos. I think he's a very Leedsy kind of player. He runs for days. He goes after everything. He's a bit of a nut, but he's done well for them since he's gone, and he's proven he can do it in the Premier League. Put better players around him, but he's definitely a big heart kind of player, a big effort kind of player. I wouldn't say no to Maverick Panas either. They'd be the two. And then maybe Malik Diouf as a left back, because that boy can cross the ball. You've got big strikers, there's that as well. Michael St. Gerard, some Leeds United podcasts are saying Leeds United are having to play with 3 at the back as the team wouldn't be good enough to play with a flat back 4. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Said it all year. Said it when we were playing the 4. That was my argument for changing the manager at the start of the season. It was change the manager or change the formation, change the approach to the game. And he did the second 2. So you don't need to change the manager. But Leeds needed to go to a back 3. They brought players in for back 3. Today's shown that the back 2 doesn't work. Appreciate the super chat as well, Free Fall, and thank you, Jer, for I've done the season. Appreciate everyone watching the content. I can talk to a camera all day. If no one's going to watch it, doesn't really matter. So I really do appreciate everyone who's watched the content this year. Paul Brody as well. Thanks very much for the super chat, Paul. Very good season. Thanks for the view and the big up content. My pleasure. Yeah, we're going to continue. We're not stopping. So we will keep doing news throughout the rest of we're not going to stop. So the total of the summer will be news now. We'll do watch alongs over and big up for the World Cup and the Leeds United friendlies. Obviously, we got the game against that lot from Manchester in Croke Park this summer. I'll be at that game. I'll be in Hill 16. So if you're knocking about for that, let me know as well. Get yourself down to the Camden in Dublin before that game as well. So, but yeah, look, ultimately, I just want to say massive thanks to everyone who's watched the content over the course of this season. It has been an absolute pleasure to make it for everybody. I appreciate everyone. And I always say, whether we agree or disagree, if we disagree in the right way, don't have a pop at people, but just disagree. There's no issues there. No problems at all. I really appreciate everyone who's watched the content throughout the year, supported the channel, who's liked, subscribed, who's downloaded Analysis to give their player ratings, which, Jesus, they're not great. But yeah, all of that all year round, and everyone that supported our backers as well, which has kept this channel moving and what has been a very tough start to this year. So I appreciate all of you incredibly much. Thank you so much for all of the support throughout the year. And we'll keep going. So we're back tomorrow morning with the news, the fallout from this, and we will rock on podcast throughout the week. And then the transfer window, I believe, opens on the 15th of June. So that's where we'll be. My pleasure, Darrett. Thank you very much. And cheers, Drew, as well. Kershaw says, none of those teams coming up are at the level of Leeds and Sunderland next. I would agree. Yeah. See what they do in the summer. They've got a lot of ground to make up. A lot of ground. It could have been a lot worse if certain sides did up. Sarah, thank you very much as well. I'll leave you there. Go outside. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a pint. If you're not drinking, go for a walk with your dog. Enjoy the afternoon. It's far more worth it than what that performance was. I will talk to you tomorrow morning for Leeds news and the fallout from this podcast tomorrow night with Paul and Jerry, the last official podcast of the season before we then get into newer podcasts heading into the summer months. But I do appreciate your time and your attention and your liking and subscribing to the channel over the course of the season. I appreciate you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. See you later.